Hello, this is the Watchdog, and welcome back to Fun with Watches. If watches weren't fun, you'd only need one. Today, we're going to review the RollsTimi 137. Let's start with the wrist check. I'm wearing this Camille 1251, and Grogo's wearing my Pagani Design PD 1780. Since Valentine's Day is coming up, Grogo asked Master Yoda's Force Ghost if he ever had a crush on anybody. Yoda said he had a thing for Yaddle once, but it turns out she was quite the heartbreaker. She could use the Force to crush both the right and left ventricle. All right, let's take a look at the watch. It comes in this RollsTimi box. And we even have a RollsTimi signed cleaning cloth, see? But here's the watch. Isn't that a nice looking watch? It's pretty unique. Yeah, I know it looks just like a Daytona, but I've never seen a Daytona with these colors. This is the first RollsTimi on my channel. Looking on AliExpress, it looks like RollsTimi makes mainly smartwatches, but they have a few conventional pieces. This 137 is an homage to a Rolex Daytona, except for 2 of the 3 colorways are not anything that Rolex has ever done before. This is an automatic watch and thus is not a chronograph, since automatic chronographs are quite expensive, and this RollsTimi was around $60. This is a multi-function watch, which is the watch that has the looks and layouts of a chronograph, but the subdials and pushers are used for something a bit mundane, such as a day of the week and day of the month. Many watches will use that third subdial as a 24-hour indicator, but RollsTimi went with the odd decision of having 2 running second hands. I often complain about 24-hour subdials, but now I'd rather have that than 2 running second hands. This watch comes in 3 colorways. 2 have a white dial with a cyan ring around the dial with green numerals on the subdials, but you can have that one in a ceramic or steel bezel. If you want something that looks more like a real Daytona, they have a John Mayer, which is yellow gold with the green dial. The John Mayer did look nice, but I chose the ceramic bezel because it looked the least like a real Daytona, with more of that cyan color than the steel bezel version. The watch is 39 millimeters at the bezel, 48 millimeters lug to lug with protruding end links. It's only 11.9 millimeters thick, which is fairly thin for an automatic. Has a 20 millimeter lug width and weighs 136 grams on the supplied bracelet with 2 links removed. The bezel is ceramic, and then we have a tachymeter with cyan letters. The tachymeter is, of course, useless because this is not a chronograph. It's just there for decoration. So you would basically have to, if you wanted to use the tachymeter, you would have to wait for the second hand to come to the 12, hack it, then push it in, and then pull it out again to stop it. And that's not gonna, you're not gonna do that. You'll use your phone instead. Then we have the dial. As I mentioned in the montage, this dial has a cyan chapter ring, and it's kind of fun. It just makes the watch stand out, and the rest of the dial is white. And then we have the RollsTimi name and logo printed on top, and then underneath it says Sports. And that Sports is in green, not cyan, and so that adds a little bit more color to it. And then we have the hands. We have stick hands, and they're lumed, and the lumed is pure garbage lume, really bad lume. And then we have the indices, which are also lumed, and they're applied, but their lume is much better, but I'll show you in the test. And then we have the running second hand, and then we have the other running second hand. We have 2 running second hands. So I imagine when they made this movement, they gave the watchmaker a choice of using the large or the small. Well, RollsTimi decided to use both. And I guess they were kind of forced to because since they're homaging a Daytona, you got to have this bottom subdial, and you got to do something with it. So they just had 2 running second hands. Yes, I know it's odd, but I don't think they had much of a choice. And there is no date at the 430, but there is a date because that's what the subdials do. The right subdial is the day of the month, and the left subdial is the day of the week. And you can set them with these pushers. And so the top pusher, it's actual screw down pushers. The top pusher moves the day of the week, and the bottom pusher lets you set the day of the month. But this green on black background of the day of the week and day of the month makes it really hard to read. So it's really not much use. But here, we'll screw the pushers back down. Then we have a sign screw down crown. The thread action's decent enough, and it pops nicely. And then when you go to screw it back down, it seems to catch right away. No problems there. And there's a little conflict on the water resistance. The Caseback says 30, but it's a screw down Caseback, lock pushers, and a screw down crown. So you would think you get more than 30, but if you look at the specs on the AliExpress ad, it says 100. And that seems to be a little bit more, make a little bit more sense. I mean, 30 seems really meager for all this screw down, but you never know. So I guess swim with it at your own risk. Then we have a flat mineral glass crystal. The ad says sapphire. It is not sapphire. I tested it. And at first I thought it was sapphire because it said sapphire, and I thought, wow, they must got some serious good AR coating. But no, the reason why you don't see such reflection is it's not sapphire, it's glass. And then we have the case. I really like the case. They did a good job with the case. It's shaped just perfect. It's the perfect shape for a Daytona homage. It's solid stainless steel. It's polished up top and on the sides and brushed on the bottoms. And they did a good job with it. It's nice and thin for an automatic. You would think that a Chinese automatic would be a little bit thicker. And then we have the Caseback. The Caseback is a screw down, and it's a display Caseback, and for some reason they tinted it. I don't understand why watch places use a tinted crystal for the display Caseback. Why would you obscure the movement? The whole point of a display Caseback is to see all the glorious details of the movement, and when it's tinted like that, it makes it more difficult to see. Then once again, it says 3 water resistant, 3 ATM water resistant, saying 30 meters. And I don't think that's correct. It just sounds a little low for all this screw down. And the ad says 100. But once again, I don't have the equipment to test it. And so take this into the water at your own risk. I have plenty of dive watches that I wear when I go in the water. So I would never take this in the water. Underneath the Caseback is the 38-36 movement. This is a 22 joule movement, 3 hertz. It hand winds, hacks, has a unidirectional rotor, and a 36-hour power reserve. And I really don't know the accuracy because I haven't thrown it on the time grapher yet. So I guess we'll do that right now. So I have no clue what to expect. Here's the watch on the time grapher. As you can see, it's running a little slow, but not horrible. And the amplitude's decent, not great. And we have no beat error whatsoever. So that's good. But yeah, it's always disappointing to have a slow movement, especially on a hacking movement, because once it drifts enough and you have to reset it, you're going to have to actually move the hands. Where a fast movement, you just hack it and wait for time to catch up. But at least you're not seeing dots everywhere like you do on some cheap movements. And once again, minus 11 isn't bad. The bracelet is a 3-link oyster style with polished center links. And we have solid end links. And instead of screw pins, we have push pins. And I know I'm like a broken record, but I prefer push pins anyway because they never fall out of me. Where screw pins, I've had them come out of me before. And to me, also, it's just easier to pound these out with a tool than to get a tiny screwdriver. I know screw pins sound like a more premium item, but I prefer push pins. And then we have the clasp. They did a good job with the clasp. I really like it. I think it's finished nicely. I mean, the whole bracelet's finished nicely. But the clasp just seems to be a little bit sturdier than your typical oyster style clasp. And it is actually signed on the inside, RollsTimi. So that's kind of a nice touch. Now this is your basic one where you have to use the micro adjust by pulling it out and getting a tiny tool there. But at least, and you only have a slot on one side, like Pagani design, so it makes it even more difficult. So it'd be nice to have some on-the-fly adjustment. Of course, you can buy a clasp with on-the-fly from AliExpress, cheap enough. Of course, you'll lose the signature then. But do you really care if your RollsTimi is signed or not? I'd rather have on-the-fly adjustment. Here is the watch on my 7.5-inch wrist. That looks and wears nice. It fits me perfectly. And it's not too heavy at 135 grams. Has a pretty good wrist roll. I really like the finish work on it. I think they did a good job. I removed 2 links, but the links are fairly large. So you should be able to wear this at 8 1/4 without having to get more links. Here we are in the Lume room. Wearing the watch gave me no indication that it would have good lume, and this test will confirm that. As we speed up the time, boom, the hand lume is already gone. The index lume is much better, but does no good if you can't see the hands. What do I like about this watch? Well, I like the cyan blue accents. I think it's just fun, and nobody's ever going to confuse this as the real thing, or think you're putting on ears wearing a fake Daytona. I like the fact that it's a solid steel watch with pretty good finish work. And I like how thin it is for an automatic. What are my grapes and groans? 2 running second hands. This seems weird. Yes, I know they didn't have much of a choice with that because of the movement they used. And if they didn't have this bottom as a running second hand, it would have looked odd. It's really hard to read the day of the week and the date on the subdials. This green on black, just really hard to see. No contrast whatsoever. They would have been better off using something white. And why did they tint the display case back? That just seems odd. It kind of misses the point of a display case back. Do I recommend this watch? Sure, this watch is fun. I really liked this watch. I liked wearing it. It was just pleasant to have on, and I really liked the colors. It looks and wears great. True, it's not a chronograph. It's a multifunction, but it gives you the look of a chronograph without all the expense. Well, thank you for watching my review of the RollsTimi 137. And I will be back with another review. Maybe I'll finally get to that Pagani design that Greg was wearing. Be sure and like and subscribe to my channel. And if you like this RollsTimi and wish to purchase it, be sure to use my affiliate link and I'll get a little bit of commission. And I'll be able to get some nicer watches on this channel. Of course, cheap AliExpress watches seems to be my niche. So maybe I won't get nicer watches. I don't know. Bye.